introduce the speaker of today, Simona Murph. I'll give you a little bit of a background. She did her master and bachelor and master at Babis Bolyai University in Romania, and then she moved to the United States to do her PhD at the University of South Carolina. She's now a fellow scientist at the Savannah River National Lab, program manager for the Savannah River National Lab, director research and development program, and a special government employee with the U.S. Department of Energy and adjunct professor at the University of Georgia, correct? I'm very happy to have her here today, and I look forward to her talk. If you have questions, please, if they're very, very urgent, write them in the chat. Otherwise, wait until the end of the talk. You can always write in the chat the question or ask me for, I can give you, you can ask the question yourself. Sorry about that. So please, Simona, the floor is yours.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to present today, and thank you, Laura and Sarah, for inviting me. I will try to tell you as much as I can about some of the unique nanomaterials that we are creating at Savannah River National Lab, and how we implement them in different devices, and we use them for various applications. Just a brief outline, I will introduce the lab, and I will tell you a couple of things about me and why are we excited and why are we doing this work. And I will briefly touch on a few applications, and I will show you how we integrate the nanomaterials at SRNL and we use them for very specific applications. So I know that I'm a little bit time here, so I'm going to fly through a couple of slides, but I will try to tell you as much as I can about it. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Romania, and I got a couple of degrees from there, and I've been at SRNL for almost 15 years, and I have different careers. I'm also a university professor at UGA. I'm an adjunct professor. So if you don't have any idea where Romania is, you can see it on the map and you kind of position yourself and you know where it is. And yes, I'm coming from Transylvania, the land of Dracula. So that's where I'm coming from. So a couple of things about the SRNL. SRNL, Savannah River National Lab, is one of the 17 national labs. And you can see that we are located in southeast region of the US, and we are each national lab has slightly different missions. There are a couple of them that they are doing basic science. Some of them they are doing nuclear work. So some of them they are NNSA. So different aggregates of labs, they have different goals. So if you look at SRNL, we are an applied research and development lab. That means everything we do, it needs to have solve a problem. So we provide cost-effective solutions to very complex technical problems. So of course, kind of going from the academia to this lab is slightly different. The mindset, the way we do science is a little bit more focused toward the application versus the fundamental science. However, of course, for us, in order to create the best solution for a technical problem, many times we need to go to the drawing board and actually try to figure out the the basic science to actually create an optimized system. And as you can see here, of course, not everything goes in line, like, hey, we design, we characterize, we understand and apply the materials that we create, but many times we go back and forth and we interdigitate these fields to kind of get to the best product. So in a way, it's kind of nice for me, or for this field of nanomaterials, is that we get to really apply these nanomaterials for specific applications. So this is quite exciting. So it's not just trying to understand the phenomena, is also what can we do with it? So some of the core competencies of the lab, we are known often as a nuclear facility, but not everything we do is nuclear work. We do a lot of environmental stewardship. We do a lot of hydrogen tritium processes. We do a lot of energy storage and conversion applications. And of course, being a national lab, we do a lot of national security missions. But just to kind of bring it home, what exactly we are doing like, when you're talking about nanomaterials, we're doing a lot of sensing, imaging, plasmonics, catalysis, photothermal processes. So we kind of go in different directions based on the pretty much of the customers, of the proposal calls. We try to tweak our nanomaterials, and you see here on the slide a wide array of various size, shape, and morphologies of nanostructures, and we try to customize the materials for those specific applications. And as we all know, if you are in this field, this is the nanomaterials, nanotechnology is not a field that is just assigned to, or kind of attached to one field. For example, chemistry is also any arenas, any field you are working on, you can actually try to implement and kind of develop and to try to understand more about these nanomaterials. So is a wide, pretty open space, if you will, for these nanomaterials. So why are we so excited about the nanomaterials? So the beauty of the field is the fact that as you get to the nanometer scale, the nanomaterials, they have different properties. We all know the gold bulk metal, that is the beautiful yellow metal, shiny metal. However, once you get to the nanoscale, depending on the size and the shape and the environment, these nanomaterials, they have display different properties. So even though nature provided us throughout its history, a wide, abundant array of materials, we continue to have a need as a society of better, cheaper, more abundant materials that can do that can be more beneficial to us. So what you see here, of course, once you get to the nanometer scale, you can get these beautiful ruby red color solutions. And this was discovered since the ancient times, and you can actually see them in Europe in the stained glass windows that they are actually the gold nanoparticles, golden spherical nanoparticles. And many times people are asking about the gold, so can you comment on the stability of these nanostructures? So I always refer, well, go to Europe and see them. They're still there in the stained glass windows in churches, so they are quite stable. But as we all know, it depends on the type and the structure and composition of each materials that the stability actually varies. And of course, once you kind of aggregate these particles and you kind of bring them together, you couple their plasmon properties, and I will come back more and talk about later on about this, and they display these blue colors. So that was also experienced, and you can see them in the stained glass windows. Now, which materials we are working on? We work a lot with noble metals. We work palladium, platinum, silver, gold. We love working with gold. It's really easy to work with gold. We also work with metal oxides, and we work with silica, titania, iron oxide, quantum dots, carbon base, and also we couple these materials. So we create all these multifunctional hybrid materials, and we target various applications for it. So how do we make these nanoparticles? Of course, you know, if you're in this field, you already know that there are basically two different approaches on creating these nanomaterials by solution chemistries or engineer down, you know, the sculpting materials. And of course, today I'm going to try to tell you as much as I can about the solution chemistry, the chemical approach that we start from the atoms and we actually build the nanomaterials. And here, a typical procedure, you know, you take a gold or silver salt, you use a reducing agent, and you also add a surfactant that will allow to actually keep the nanomaterials together, and you create some, for example, seed nanoparticles. Of course, if you want to grow the size of these nanoparticles, you can use this first step of the small nanoparticles, and you can actually grow them in larger particles by adding more metal salt and some reducing agent. And you can continue this reaction, and you can increase the size of these nanoparticles. And you can see almost here what I display. They are actually spherical nanoparticles. And you might wonder, why do I have here sodium borohydride in the first step, and after that, the ascorbic acid? So first, at the beginning, you want strong reducing agents, and you force to create these very small nanoparticles, the seed nanoparticles. And after that, you need a milder reducing agents to make sure that you don't create more nucleation centers, but you actually want to grow the spherical nanoparticle in larger particles by creating this milder reducing agent. And if you take a look, you know, a wide array of different sizes, nanoparticles. So once you get to probably around 40 nanometer in size, you can see that some other different shape appear. And you can see here a couple of rods here at the top of the SEM image, the TM image on the right. The more you increase and you use this procedure, of course, you have more dispersed medium. So of course, we have to kind of balance this, you know, how far can you push this, the size. And once you create them, of course, you have to try to separate, you know, other shapes versus the rod nanoparticle. But of course, you know, if you kind of look back again for the seeds, you know, you can have the seeds of one material, for example, gold, and you can use a different metal salt. You can use, for example, platinum or palladium, and you can create these hybrid materials. So what you can see here, for example, at the bottom, we actually use the gold nanoparticles, and we started to create these gold platinum hybrid nanostructures. And of course, we can do also a lot of chemistries on these gold silver nanoparticles. And what is really easy to work with is the fact that they have high affinity for the tiles. So we always use these bifunctional linkers that we actually functionalize their surface, and we do additional chemistries. And of course, when we are talking here about you know, who are the seeds, we are able to also grow these nanoparticles on various supports. So what you see on the last slide, we created here some zinc oxide structures on zero-valent iron porous structures. But also we use stainless steel, copper, you name it, different other supports, so you can create this supported material. So we'll have a lot of work done in that arena. So you can use the seed, any other support. Now, of course, for us, you know, sphericals are great. They have this nice property that they are really dependent on the size. But we are a lot of times we are focused on different shape nanoparticles. So by using a slightly different procedure, and in this case you can see that we have a different surfactant, which is the acetyl-3-methylammonium bromide, we can generate these gold nanorods. And by using kind of the same steps, the same 3 steps approach, we can actually tune the size of these rods. So we can go for long rods, or we can go with the shorter rods. So you can get these rods up to 500 nanometer in length with a diameter pretty constant around 20 nanometer. So you can see here, like long rods that we call the rods that they are around 500 nanometers, so we can kind of tune the length of these rods, but also you can see on the right the short rods. And of course, at the beginning it was not the most monodispersed system, so we always had to go through all kind of steps to separate the spheres or other shapes from these rod-like nanostructures. And of course, here you see, like, we are all scientists and we know that, hey, I'm going to show you the most beautiful SEM or TM images with the best results. But, we had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to really identify the best steps to really separate and to get a monodispersed system. And what we found here in the wet chemical procedure, that probably 5% additive ions, in our case silver ions, allow us to get a great yield of the production of these nanorods. So we call this the short rods. So we can grow these rods up to 100 nanometer in length, and we can tune their length of these rods. And I will tell you in a second why we care, why we are really interested in tuning the length of these nanorods. So everything is really important in this reaction part where we have these ingredients, and you can see here the ingredients that we have and the steps that we are using. But the presence of this additive ion, the silver ions, it allows us to tune the length of this nanorod. So if we kind of take a step back and kind of try to visualize or to come up with a growth mechanism, we are trying to see how exactly this grows. So if we are looking at we start with the nucleation, and we as we add and we form more gold atoms, you are starting to develop these facets. And in presence of the acetyl-3-methylammonium bromide, you can see that we have different binding on the surface, and you start to grow these one-dimensional nanostructures. And this C-type is actually acting as a bilayer on the surface. So hydrophobic functionality actually interdigitate on the surface, and the other end is actually kind of binding on the gold nanoparticle surface. So it's not only the C-type that is really critical in the tuning the length of these nanorods, but like I said, everything is actually really important. So what we found here, that the kind of the end of these nanorods, they have like 111 facets, and they grow like on the 110 and 100 facets. So that's kind of the proposed mechanism that we think that these nanorods grow. But what we found here, when we compared the short rods with the long rods, they actually have different crystallinity. And the short rods, they are prepared in the presence of the silver ions. They are single crystal, while the other ones, they are pentatwin crystals. So of course, now this tells us that there is slightly different mechanism that is influencing the growth of this nanoparticle. And of course, we did a lot of studies, and even now we are not quite clear here if we have like the presence of these silver ions, do we have an epitaxial grow of this one layer of gold, one of silver? So also, if you increase the amount of silver too much, then instead of getting 100 nanometer rods, in length, you are getting shorter and shorter. So it's still a lot of work that can be done in kind of really understanding the growth mechanism of this rod. But just to kind of make everything more complicated, small changes in the reaction path, if you remember those ingredients that we have, the gold salts, C-tab, we have reducing agents, the time that you're waiting between the steps of seeding, and the additive ions allows you to go, to create cubes, or you create these stars, or you create triangles. So while this is really interesting, you want, you need a dedicated person that will actually explore one single structure to kind of really understand how to reproduce the production of these nanoparticles, and all the time, then you can go in different directions for various applications. So of course you might wonder, how is this possible? Small changes in the reaction path, you can get so diverse array of nanostructures. So this is kind of like just like cooking, right? So you have milk, sugar, and flour and eggs, and hey, you can make cookies or bread or cake. So just the ingredients. So it's the same thing at the nanoscale. So why we are so fascinated about gold? As we all know, in bulk, is this. Why is noble metal? Of course, is because it's not reactive. So that's why we want to have this jewelry made of gold. But at a nanoscale, they support these plasmonic properties. So they have these localized surface plasmon resonances. That means if you, the light impinges of the nanoparticles, you have this collective oscillation of electrons on the surface. So you have this strong absorption and scattering, which can give us this highly intense confined electromagnetic field. So what is also nice is that they are highly depending on the shape of the nanoparticles. So why the shape is really important, because I already talked, about different shapes, and we are excited and we love working with different shape nanoparticles. So if we take a look here, if you remember, we talk all about the spherical nanoparticle, but also the rod length, is really critical. We can tune the gold nanoparticles optical properties in the visible near ER region of the spectrum. So you can see here on the left, we have the SEM images. And as we increase the length of these rods, from going from sphere to the rod, and we go from 30, 40, 80, we can tune the length of this rod. You can see that we can tune their optical properties. So I just mentioned here the surface plasmon bands. When you have a spheres, the electrons, they go on each direction, so you have one peak. So what you can see here for the spherical nanoparticle, you see this plasmon band for the gold nanoparticles. Once you get to the rods, these electrons, they oscillate along the short axis and along the long axis. So that's why this band is actually split in two. So now for the rod, depending on their length, you can have actually different plasmon band. So why is this important? For example, for a sensing application, if you have a laser line that is 633 versus 785, is going to be really affecting the response of the interaction between the nanoparticle and the laser line. So I will talk more about that one. But also, if you look here, depending on the length of these rods, you can actually have different colors. And even without doing any analysis or any characterization tools, right away if you produce your rods or you have spherical nanoparticles. Typically, when we see pink and red, we are not that happy, because we know that everything is spherical, so we want other shapes. So kind of pushing it forward, why do we really care about working with anisotropic nanostructures? That means different other shapes. For example, for catalytic applications, if you have different shape, that means you have different facets. You have different facets, you have different reactivities, and you can actually tune and you can drive a chemical reaction just by changing the shape of the nanostructure. So you can kind of drive your reaction toward a specific product. And of course, when you're looking at the inelastic-like scattering, like Raman response, if you have these one-dimensional nanostructures, just think about that, you know, the electrons, they kind of oscillate on the surface here. At one point, you have an excess of electrons on the tip of this rod. So those are considered the hot spots. So, of course, if you have cubes versus spherical nanoparticles, you have more hot spots. So presumably the nanoparticles that I have more tips or corners, you know, they are actually better sensing materials versus the spherical nanoparticles. In the same times, if you're looking here at the top of these slides, you see that even if you have, for example, a gold cubes versus a gold hexagons, looking at the elastic-like scattering, they can glow orange or they can glow yellow. So this is important because if you want, for example, to put a drug on these nanoparticles, you can actually track to see if they go inside if they go to the brain or do they go to the heart. Just by having the same composition but a different shape, you can actually use them for tracking. And of course, you know, when you're talking about the one-dimensional nanostructures, you know, of course, all the time we are looking at the you know, electronic devices that you have all self-assembled nanostructures. So I will try to touch a little bit. I see that it's already 10:27. I will try to touch a little bit on a couple of applications. What do we do with them here at SRNL? So of course, for sensing applications, you know, if you shine the light on these nanoparticles and you place a nanoparticle, analyte of interest in the close proximity of the nanoparticle, you can get an enhancement response. Why is that? Because you actually couple the plasmon band of the nanoparticles with the resonances of your analyte, and you can get enhancement effects. So the intensity of the Raman scattering is actually direct proportional with the incident electric field and the polarizability of your molecule. And here usually the best nanoparticle substrates are gold and silver, because you can actually couple the plasmon band of the nanoparticles with the laser line. Typically you get 10 to the 6, 10 to the 8 factor enhancement in Raman responses. And of course, you know, it was reported even a single molecule detection, which is wonderful. However, is always, if you have one analyte there, you can detect one analyte. But as we know, in the real world, we always have a multitude of other contaminants around, and we have to make sure that we detect only the analyte of interest. So the way we are looking here at the Raman spectroscopy, you're looking at the inelastic-like scattering of the analyte. So you can see here kind of just a schematic. So you have analyte, and you can, each of them, you know, you look at their fingerprint response, but when you put it in the close proximity of the nanoparticle, you get an enhanced response. So there are many factors that actually affect, that influence the response, the enhancement factor of this response. Even if you have nanoparticles that they are closely together, you can actually couple their plasmon band. And also the materials, how much is in the illuminated area, how much where is the plasmon band versus the laser line. So we did a lot of basic science with model analyze to really understand the systems that we have. So we also, you know, it's important, do you do this measurement in solutions or you do lab on a chip? So you can see here an example, for example, silver nanowires versus the gold silver nanotubes. And we found that the gold silver nanotubes, they produce like an enhancement factor of 10 to the 7, and they were better than the silver nanowires, even though they have different plasmon bands. So the gold silver nanoparticles, they were kind of matching closely with the 633 laser line that we use. And also here an example that I just mentioned, if you have the cubes versus the spheres or the rods, you know, we got here a better enhancement response than the having just the spherical nanoparticles. nanoparticles. And of course here, this is attributed to the hotspots for the structures. How did we actually really implement it at the site? So of course, working with the radionuclide, you always have to do a lot of to use sorbents to actually capture the radionuclides. So once you kind of get these materials to absorb the radionuclides, you never really know if, hey, do we still have some extra radioactive material in the tank? How can we really know? So we have to take a small sample, we have to package these materials, we have to put it on the road, we have to take it to the lab. So it's a very complex process that is laborious, and it takes a lot of steps. So we propose that why not use these gold nanostars as a reporter bag to really kind of test to see if we still have this radioactive material in there. So that's what we did. We coupled the monosodium titanate, which is now a known sorbent of these radionuclides, and due to the close proximity of these gold nanostars to the radionuclides, we were able to detect some of the plutonium compounds, and even we were able to get a linear response. And why stars again? Because you have these hot spots here, so it's a better response than just having spherical nanoparticles, and you can see here some mapping on that. And we got a patent on this actually this year. So this was kind of successful, I will say, and is a real application of these nanoparticles. And of course, another one kind of looking for the same concept, we create these capillaries that had inside these gold nanorods. They were attached on the surface. So our goal was to detect some of these hydrogen isotopes, and having the capillary allowed us not to only have the junctions between the rods, but also to have more interaction between the plasmon band and the radiation light, and also the hydrogen gases. So we got like 5 times enhancement for these gases, and yes, we got also a patent on this. And this is again, even when we presented the other information in basic science, I remember when I went to a conference one time, somebody asked me, well, you have these extraordinary examples with model analytes, but in the real world, how is this working? So now we actually have, we demonstrated this for a real environment. And another way of implementing these nanoparticles is we use them as a filter to capture some gas phase zinc vapors. And zinc 65 is also a radionuclide that is a byproduct in the tritium facility. I'm not going to really go in a lot of details about this, because some of them, they are more critical to the business. So I'm not going to really go into that. However, it was found that, some of the radioactive material, it kind of came through the pipe, and it got to the glove box of the worker. So of course, our main priority is not to expose the people to the radioactive materials. So the goal was to create a filter that can capture the radioactive materials. So if you have the stainless steel wool, it doesn't capture this zinc 65 plum. And we decided, hey, let's put some of the gold nanoparticles. They are smaller, they are more reactive, and we can try to actually capture this zinc 65 plum. And of course, there are many other requirements. So you cannot just go with any materials, because there are a lot of other experimental conditions that stops us from using any type of material due to the requirements of the plant. So what we found actually that gold was capturing the zinc, and you can see on the right some of the deposits that we have that they capture this zinc. And interestingly enough, they actually form an alloy with the zinc, which is really nice, because then it doesn't come off. And of course, as any filter, how long can you can you maintain that filter that is still active? So we did a lot of studies kind of looking into the retention and the stability of this nanoparticle and the loading capacity. And also we have a patent on this, and we publish a few papers on this nanomaterial. So this can be really used for any other filtering devices with nanomaterials. But now, all the time, kind of talking here, you know, with different customers, you know, all the time they ask us, you know, hey, is this gold relevant to the industrial scale? So, we always have to kind of educate the customers. Hey, it's really, you know, it's not that expensive at a nanoscale, and we need only just a little bit. And look, some other vendors, they actually use it, and is not as expensive, and especially kind of looking at the, you know, the comparison, 10 milligram per liter versus 1 milligram per liter, you know, is quite relevant. But as a society, we need to identify materials that are cheaper, they behave like gold. We love working with gold on any level, but also they're more abundant. So are we there yet? Can we, you know, the alchemists, they try this forever, right? To create this to transfer any metals, you know, to behave like gold. So what we did, we actually coupled the iron oxide rust with some of the gold nanostructures. And we try to create this world tiniest hot plate. So all the time when we're heating something, you know, you're heating the vessel, you're heating the environment, and then you get to your nanoparticles that you want to heat. So how can we create a better localized and remotely heating that is more efficient of this reaction path? So we said, hey, we can do it with nanoparticles. When you shine the light on these nanoparticles, they get hot and they can release the heat in the surrounding media. So by using this targeted localized heating is more efficient, and you can actually target various analytes of interest. So how can we heat these nanomaterials? There are two different ways. One is to use light, the plasmonic field, and one is, you know, if you have a magnetic functionality, you can use a magnetic field and you can heat the environment. And of course, kind of going from the inside out. So of course, there are different heating phenomena in each place. So if you have using light, you know, you have different lattice vibration, relaxation phenomena, or when you're talking about magnetic nanoparticles, you are talking about the hysteresis loss or relaxation mechanism. So we were able to, how did we implement this? We were making steam with light. So we use a low laser light power, and we use these gold iron oxide hybrid nanostructures. And of course, we use different shapes. We have rings, we have tubes, and we have spheres. And these bright spots, you know, they're the gold nanostructures. And you can even see here, you know, some of the steam that it was created at the top of these vials. Of course, we didn't see any boiling. That means, you know, everything was getting hot right there on in the close proximity. So if you take a look here, we replace some of the gold with some of the iron oxide, so with a cheaper material. You can see here that the gold iron oxide is heating as efficient as the gold nanoparticles. So you can see here that in 20 minutes, we can reach around 70 Celsius degrees with the gold iron oxide nanoparticle. This was quite exciting because now suddenly we were able to say, hey, we have a cheaper material, slightly cheaper, and you know, very abundant material iron oxide, and actually we can get the same heating effect. And of course, we implemented this for a model catalytic reaction of 4-nitrophenol. And if you take a look here, we can see that the iron oxide gold spheres, they were better catalyst for this reaction than the other shape. And again, when we compare with the gold, just by removing some of the gold material with replacing with iron oxide, it was a better catalyst. And we published this in a couple of journals, and we have a patent on this. And also we got a little bit of PR on this. If you search modern day alchemy, you know, we made the iron oxide, we turn it into gold. So the benefits of this, of course, you have also the magnetic functionality, and you can couple that. Last application that I want to mention briefly here is when you have this magnetic functionality, we can also heat the nanoparticles and the environment by using a magnetic field. So what we did here, we coupled the magnetic nanoparticles with some of palladium. Palladium is a very great material for hydrogen absorption, and you can absorb the hydrogen, and you can control the absorption desorption behavior of the hydrogen. Just imagine that you have even this hydrogen economy, hydrogen cars. You know, how much hydrogen can you release at one time without having this huge release of the hydrogen? So what we did here, we put our nanoparticles in the vial, and while kept in the dry ice, we placed them in the magnetic field. And just by increasing the magnetic field, we were able to release the hydrogen that was measured through the pressure of in the headspace. When it's really cold, the hydrogen gets absorbed into the palladium. Once you heat it, it's coming off, and you can actually measure the pressure. And you can see here on the right the heating and cooling, and you can really monitor this process, and it is a really efficient process. And I would like to mention that, yes, we have another patent on this, and we publish also in a couple of journals. So these are just a few examples of, real world applications, and all the time you're thinking, well, what can we do with it? You just have to kind of go to the drawing board and kind of see, okay, what is needed? How can you customize your materials to actually really find some cool applications? And here, these are the students, and you can see Sarah is right here. So in the summer, and actually in the spring too, yes, right here. So Sarah was here for 6 months with us. So awesome group of people. And in conclusion, if you were not excited yet, I hope that you're just a little bit excited to work with different size, shape nanostructures. And if you have any questions now or later, I would try to answer as much as I can. So thank you for your attention. I apologize if I went a little bit too long. So thank you for your time.